than our local cable subscribers.
All right, it is 6:01. I will now call to order the May 18th meeting of the Easthampton Conservation Commission. This meeting is being recorded. This meeting of the Easthampton Conservation Commission will be conducted in person and simultaneously via remote participation online to the greatest extent possible. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so despite best efforts, we will post on the City of Easthampton website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Should an interruption occur in which the online meeting ends abruptly, both the in-person and online meetings will not be restarted, and all agenda items will be automatically continued to the next scheduled meeting. Are there any public concerns, non-agenda items? Seeing none. Oh, we have one.
Go ahead, Holden. You're welcome to unmute.
Sorry, Holden. Oh, we're not hearing you yet. Hang on.
Can you hear me now?
We can.
Okay, sorry about that. Hi, my name is Holden Sparacino. I'm at 12 Lord Street. I had emailed the Conservation Commission a few weeks ago. I serve on the Manhan Rail Trail Committee in town, and there was some trees that were cleared by the Oxbow adjacent to, I think it's 111 East Street. And I am attending the Manhan Rail Trail Committee later tonight, so I wanted to just check if there was any updates. I didn't see it on the agenda, but if that was being investigated by the Conservation Commission.
Thank you, Holden. So I have looked into this. It's a small spigot where the Manhan River flows into the Oxbow. I've been unable to determine ownership of the spigot of land. It's an island in the Oxbow right between the Manhan River and the Oxbow proper. So I reached out to DEP to try to determine ownership. We don't have any we have no evidence about who's doing the clearing. Mm-hmm. And so the action would be to either pursue who is doing the clearing or the landowner of the spigot. So given that we don't know either of those pieces of information, I don't see an action at this time.
It doesn't show up on Mass Mapper as a property because it's in the middle of the...
It's encompassed by the Oxbow.
Okay.
It does look like something is being cut, trees are being cut, there's clearing happening or some kind of activity.
There has been some clearing on that parcel, on that little island. Some of it looks old, like there has been, appears to be historic cutting of trees on there as well. It looks as though, speaking with some of the neighbors, it happened sometime this winter when someone was able to walk across on the ice and clear from there. I have not gotten down to it because it's in the middle of the Oxbow, so I need a boat to get down to it, and I haven't had the opportunity to take a closer look than what you can see from the rail trail. So it's hard to get a really good eye because you're several hundred feet away from the rail trail.
Can you tell how extensive it is, or not really?
Holden, do you want to speak to that? How extensive you think the clearing is?
Yeah, so some of our committee members noticed it a few weeks ago, I think, while they were along the rail trail. The committee members that noticed it noted that it seemed to happen in conjunction with an upland clearing that happened on the backside of East Street. So we're also looking into that because it seems like that clearing might have happened within the right-of-way of the rail trail as well. So I guess I would be curious to know if that landowner that cleared the upland section, if that simultaneously happened with the clearing in the Oxbow, or if it was someone that they hired, I don't know, or maybe they're unassociated, but it seemed to have happened at the same time.
I did get a chance to speak to that landowner who spoke about clearing their hillside for some new plantings outside of a resource area zone, and did not said they knew nothing about the clearing on this spigot of land.
Okay, yeah, it is. I mean, yeah, it is right in front of. I guess their view has been enhanced of the oxbow through this clearing, but I understand that's not proof.
So I reached out to Mark Simpson about this. He said there's no course of action if we don't know who's clearing, and we have no way of figuring out who the property owner. I mean, I think some extensive deed research could turn up something. With this, I suspect it might say that it's owned by the Commonwealth as part of the oxbow itself,
Right.
which doesn't give us a lot of opportunities for enforcement.
Yeah. I guess it seems like the other nearest parcel could potentially be the rail trail.
Right here.
Right away.
And hold, it's behind 111.
No, I'm at 12 Lord Street, but the clearing was on 111. It was, well, the backside of the hill was completely cleared, and then
Right. Okay.
yeah.
You can see even in this image, and I'm not sure what this satellite image is from 2025, that there are some stumps here. Again, it's really hard. It's hard to get age, but you can tell that likely some of those stumps are several years old at the very least.
And it's definitely saw cut. It's not like beaver activity or something.
Yeah, over here in particular, there's some newer cuts. They look rough, like they're not professionally done. I did also reach out to the utility companies who have lines through this area, just out of curiosity if there was any, they do some clearing typically in the right of way, but we're out of their zones. And they clarified they didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
I actually ran into, while out there, I ran into a consultant with, I believe it was with National Grid, who had walked the site in February and said he had noticed the cuts. He had noticed the clearing back then.
Okay.
So that also points to that it was winter activity, a time when not a lot of folks are using the rail trail.
Yep.
Well,
It sounds like we don't.
I was just gonna say, I think that's the only comment I had, but I appreciate you all looking into it.
Yeah, sorry, we don't have anything more definitive to offer.
Okay.
If we have any information about who is doing the cutting, the Conservation Commission can issue a cease and desist against the person. Cutting vegetation is altering a resource area in the proximity of the oxbow.
Yeah, and Eva, I think I sent you a few photos that one of our members took. So but it sounds like you've been out there yourself. So, but please reach out if you need any other information if we have it. But I appreciate you all looking into it.
Thanks, Holden.
All right. Bye.
Any other public concerns?
So this is all concerns not related.
Not related to items on the agenda. Yeah. Okay. We'll move on to public hearings. Our first item is a notice of intent for construction of a skate park at Millside Park. 136-99 and 135-245. This is Mass DEP file number 151-337. Do we have someone here to speak to that matter?
Yep. Dan Shaw here, landscape architect from GZA Geoenvironmental. And my colleague, Mark Stednicki, I think may be in the waiting room to join the meeting online.
Thank you. All right, I believe he is in.
Good evening.
Do you folks want to just reintroduce where we're at in this review for the Conservation Commission?
Yeah, Mark, do you want to summarize it or do you want me to?
We have received the comments from the city engineer and provided a response memo / letter to the comments. The overall design of the skate park has not changed since previously discussed. Dan, if you want to take over and do a quick overview of the skate park again.
Yeah, sure. So the proposed project is a approximately 6,000 square foot cement concrete skate park located in Millside Park, an existing park in the city of Easthampton off of Ferry Street on the edge of Lower Mill Pond. Part of the work is in the 100-foot buffer zone to the bank resource. And because of the new impervious area being introduced for the paved skate park, which is the paved skate park is the outline in the left side of the image. Yep. And then the impervious surface that's being introduced causing runoff towards the pond. We are designing a stormwater system to meet Massachusetts stormwater standards. And that's been the bulk of the discussion during the previous Conservation Commission meetings and the review of the city engineer. So we've provided our responses and described how the system, which is a sediment forebay, a rain garden, a detention basin, and under drain system to an energy dissipating outlet structure, how it meets the various requirements. And it's all summarized in the response letter that GZA sent to the city last week.
So we've had 2 more rounds of review, right? We received, I think this commission reviewed the first city engineer, the city engineer's first response letter. And then since that time, since our last meeting, in the preceding 3 weeks, GZA responded, and then Diane, the city engineer, reviewed GZA's response letter. And essentially, if commissioners have had a chance to review the response, the remaining issues have been closed.
So the city engineer is satisfied with everything at this point?
She is. The only caveat she has is just the 100th increase in flows, these very small amounts that the commission had discussed last time as likely being de minimis.
Were there other questions from the commission, things folks wanted to follow up on?
Wasn't there the question of the cleaning of the porous pavement and the city needing to contract it out? Or is that just a statement that had to be added?
So it was incorporated into the operations and maintenance plan. Is that correct? The management for the porous pavement?
Correct. The required maintenance for the porous pavement has been added to the operation and maintenance plan and checklist. Dan can speak to the conversation with the town about what will happen or what the town believes will happen. Like previously discussed, the sediment load to the porous pavement is very minimal. It's up gradient, and I believe based on discussions with the town, they are not planning on sanding or salting the sidewalks during the winter time. So they would just have to, when they mow the area, they would just have to maintain or make sure that they blow off any debris and grass clippings.
And then in addition, the Parks Department's not planning to sand or salt the porous pavement.
Did the city engineer have any further comment on that?
Didn't.
I wasn't here for that discussion. Were there other follow-up points?
I just think the payment was brought up, and that's been dealt with. That's good then.
Is everybody satisfied that that has been dealt with? Okay. All right. Ava, anything else you were tracking?
Nope. I think this NOI appears to be in order. I drafted our set of special conditions. and the commission had an opportunity to review. Any comments about the conditions?
Not from my side. Did any other commissioners have comments?
Nope.
I included this in perpetuity condition about, from the last time we had an order of conditions with porous asphalt. So at such a time the sidewalk is repaved, the system shall be replaced with porous asphalt, given that it's a part of the stormwater system. I just was, noting this is a city project and, but I think we can include it in here, and
If it's part of the system, I think it should be a condition.
and same with this operations and maintenance logs, that we'd like a log submitted to the commission describing the O&M tasks in the preceding year. Essentially, everything else in here is our standard condition. I enumerated just that, particularly because we're not trying to infiltrate here, but that our 72-hour drawdown period is still required by state stormwater standards. So I thought that might be worth enumerating in here, even though it's covered by the standards by reference.
Yep, I think it's a good thing to have highlighted.
And everything else is pretty standard. A project environmental monitor to monitor the site during rain events, and once a week to check on the erosion controls, a pre-construction meeting, all those typical things. Mark and Dan, as I'm putting together the other components of the order, I'll send you our special conditions for your review as well. If you have any substantial issues, we can bring them back to the next commission meeting. Otherwise, we'll move forward.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
So are we ready to vote tonight?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone care to make a motion?
Is it just an order of conditions or an order of conditions and a
And
stormwater?
it's stormwater permit,
No.
right? Oh, no, because it's under the limit. Yeah,
Exactly.
right.
I'll move to issue an order of conditions for the Millside Park Skate Park with the conditions Eva has prepared.
Second.
All those in favor?
Right.
So moved. So you'll either electronically sign or we'll sign it next time.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll sign for you all electronically.
Good.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
All right, our next order of business is a notice of intent for duplex and solar canopy construction at 100 Bassick Brook Drive, Mass DEP file number 1510338. Do we have someone here to speak to this item?
Yes, right here. Hi, Doug Searle, Berkshire Design Group. I'm also here with Patrick Arguin, who's the CEO of Lathrop, and can fill in on Lathrop specific questions if there are any. May I share my screen here?
Yep. I will give you sharing permission.
All right, sorry, you. Great. Lathrop community is looking to expand their residential dwellings, and there are several items that kind of would be very helpful for them to be able to accomplish that mission. And there's two locations that we're proposing specific work at this time in this notice of intent. This very first site, I think this will be the easiest. The very first location is just west and southwest of the Residence Inn, which is the building. Sorry, my screen's. The Residence Inn is here, just on the northeast location at the top right of the image on your screen. What is shown here is an existing parking lot where what is being proposed over this lot is a solar canopy, covered roof structure for the parking lot that would have incorporate solar into that structure. Further west, there are 3 maintenance sheds that are scattered throughout the community that they're looking to consolidate into one location, which would be just off of the west end of this parking lot. And then to square this parking lot up to be a little more uniform in the parking space available, there are 3 additional 9x20 parking spaces proposed that would then go under the solar canopy. The second piece in this location is that the existing trash enclosure and collection area is located just south of that parking lot. And Lathrop is looking to relocate that just a little further south along this existing drive lane and to bump that into, take out the curb in this location and then extend that curb, put in a new enclosure and trash area with asphalt and a concrete base, and then replace that location with a new maintenance building that they are in need of.
Doug, I'm sorry to interrupt. Are you able to point? It's a little hard to.
I am moving a mouse around.
We're just not seeing it.
Yeah, we're not able to see it.
I can get up there. Like,
so thank you, Patrick.
Yeah. So the current trash removal is located here, and we looked at building a facilities building here and didn't find that we had enough room to do so. And so this was the location of the facilities building. And in building the solar canopy that we'd like, that will help us with the Lathrop Inn, we're putting the solar canopy in this area. So we kind of have to squeeze that prefab facilities building into the space. Should I stay up here?
And so the trash area is being relocated to the.
Yeah, so we're going to take the trash area here, locate it here.
Okay.
There's just enough space for that. This is a chiller system, so this is their cooling system for the inn. And again, you can see we're going just a little bit behind the chiller system in order to get enough room in that facilities building.
It's so difficult when I can't use the mouse. So the existing. The proposed shed is, the proposed maintenance building is proposed to connect to a dry well for its downspouts for its roof system here. And then as well, this large solar canopy is also proposed to connect into the dry well here. And then drainage from inside, any maintenance work inside the building is going to an oil water separator and then heading out and connecting into an existing sanitary system. So there are no, drainage options that are proposed to move water downslope further into the buffer and towards the wetland for this location. This location is obviously within the 100-foot buffer, but it is currently outside of the existing wetlands that are just south and southwest of the site. Scrolling down to another image, because our plans originally were showing that there were 6 trees that were proposed for removal in this location outside of the buffer. But that plan was modified and revised slightly. The company that is looking to install the solar had done a review of the vegetation that is just south of the site. Part of Lathrop's property is in a conservation restriction, which is held by Kestrel. Thank you, Kestrel Land Trust. And a letter was sent over to Kestrel requesting permission to remove 10 trees within their location. And so this solid line across the site is that CR boundary here. The trees that are located just right around that boundary, including these 2 that are kind of right on or just outside that boundary, are included in this 10 tree request. They had asked Kessler if they could remove those trees. Those trees were considered, they're not doing well and they're considered a hazard for, they may potentially fall on the new maintenance building or car park area or those relocated sheds. And the Kessler Land Trust had no issue with that, and they submitted a letter on their behalf for Lathrop saying, you know, we approve of the removal of those trees, and then the wood would be donated firewood, which is something that's acceptable within their CR. So the other trees, there were a few that were, which is noted on the plans here, that are actually no longer there. That we were previously calling as to be removed, but the others with an X, there are 7 total that we're looking to remove that are in the way of the new, waste recycling area, or that are otherwise hazards to, to the existing space. So we're looking to remove those in that area. There are trees within the CR that are right along the wetland edge, if not just a hair inside, and certainly be happy to discuss any kind of tree replanting or mitigation options, to accommodate that work.
We do have a tree inventory of the species and DVH of them for
Okay.
removal. If we want to review them, we'll return to that.
So out of curiosity, are they generational or what are they?
There's a variety of trees in there. Do we want to talk about them now? Or should we keep getting the overview?
What would folks prefer? Maybe we continue the overview and come back. Yeah, let's finish the overview, please.
Okay, great. So this is the first site that work is proposed at. The second location is, sorry about the scrolling back and forth. Second location is off of Mulberry Lane, and it is a location of 2 proposed duplex of 2 dwelling units that is located outside the wetland area, but is inside the 50-foot buffer. Lathrop is still working out, the financing for this, as well as several other locations not included in this notice of intent that later would be, proposed to the city as part of a plan. But we're distinctly putting this in this application because there are very few locations that are buildable locations within the Lathrop community there within that parcel. And this one happens to be within the 50-foot. So we wanted to get it in before the new wetland ordinance would be passed that would, prohibit the use of this site for, future residents. So essentially this area, these 2 dwellings, the roof drains would be connected, also draining to dry well on the west side and just north of the location here. There are 2 existing parking spaces that are there now for residents and visitors. We're proposing to just relocate that to the west side of these buildings, and then both of them would have a garage with a singular car parking space, and then the outside the driveway there sort of jointly between the 2 buildings would offer space for an additional vehicle for each dwelling unit. So that's basically the overview of the notice of intent.
The commission would next like to see the comments from DEP. We can take a look at.
Yep.
Can I just ask a clarifying question? That the solar panels that were in the first slide,
Yes,
you said they're proposed to go over a parking lot?
that's correct. There's
Is the parking lot already there?
That's correct. The parking lot is already there, except for those. Sorry, this is complicated.
Except for the maintenance building.
Except for those 3 little spots in that car. Am I still? I'm not. Am I? I'm sort of sharing. It's complicated. There are 3 parking spaces that are in the southwest
Great.
corner of that lot that aren't there that we are proposing to.
So there's some expansion of the parking lot.
Yes, by 3 spaces.
That corner.
Yep.
So DP responded with several comments. The first question was, does the existing stormwater management system have the capacity to handle the additional runoff that will be generated? And is the existing system being maintained? And the response that we sent in is that we did not analyze the existing stormwater system. We didn't analyze the existing stormwater system is, the entire Lathrop community. And so we're proposing that we don't basically have to go through and do an existing inventory of that entire system just due to the expense that it would cost Lathrop. But we're looking to, for each of these sites, look at their individual stormwater conditions and needs and handle them directly in that location. So we didn't analyze the entire existing system, but dry wells are being proposed for each of the new buildings, for the maintenance building and for the duplex units.
So, Doug, are you saying that nothing that is newly constructed is going to flow to or interact with the existing system at all?
That is currently correct, yes. It'd be going to dry wells.
Existing dry wells or new?
New dry wells are being proposed.
Okay.
And do we have a stormwater analysis that goes with the runoff volume and what's going to be able to be handled in the dry wells?
I don't believe so. We could put that together for those dry wells.
We would need that if there's new stormwater structure.
When was the original Lathrop? Like things that are there now, when were those permitted under what state of the stormwater rules? Do we know that?
Excellent question, and one that's a little bit more complicated than I have the knowledge to answer. There's been a series of different permitting over the years, over the past 25 to 30 years. So I don't know when the last stormwater review was conducted.
I believe it was 2005 with the NOI 151232 was the last expansion at Lathrop.
What are you thinking, Dan? Am I incorrect that if nothing's flowing to them, that we still need to know about the capacity of the current system?
I don't know what I'm thinking. I'm just wondering at that point.
We did do like physical observation of the site, and four bays and the existing wells. Essentially, it's a conveyance system that is there now, daylighting in detention areas, and it looks like it's currently functioning.
Mm-hmm.
We're not sure exactly when Lathrop is conducting maintenance or vacuuming of existing catch basin systems for those sumps, but currently it looks like the system is functioning properly as was originally signed.
Yes. So it wouldn't have been under our ordinance at that point. It wouldn't have been under stormwater management standards. It was probably under the earlier stormwater things, which were somewhat similar, but there's probably not in perpetuity conditions on the site that haven't said much about stormwater, if anything. And for whatever might still be recorded for that order of conditions, which I assume there's a certificate of compliance. But
there is, yeah.
Am I allowed to ask questions? Or-
If you can wait until we're ready for public comment.
Move on to number two. So number two was the roof runoff is considered clean. It does not need treatment, but as long as certain types of metal roofs are not used, refer to the stormwater handbook, or soils amenable to the use of dry wells. Test pits confirm that the depth of seasonal high groundwater and soil type was adequate for the installation of dry wells.
So we haven't received any test pit information for the site.
Noted. I did not know that. I will refer back to my colleague. Jeff Clark was not able to make it tonight. Here. So number three, the commission might want to review the filing fee for the other work that's proposed in addition to the new maintenance building. And our response was that an additional fee, the second activity, was submitted. Yeah, I'd certainly be happy to test that information and make sure you guys get that.
want to go next? We want to do trees. Do we want to talk more stormwater? Let's look at the site visit images.
Yeah, let's start there.
I guess, so, well, coming back to stormwater, I guess what my mindset is kind of, that makes sense that makes sense to kind of keep it separate to not have to do an analysis of the whole site, but we probably would want to see the calculations showing how they perform and that they would generally meet stormwater management performance standards, because even though it's not like, if this were just how many square feet of new impervious or whatever we talking about?
That is a good question. Let's see if I can track that down. Yeah, it's 26. The new maintenance building is 26 by 50 feet. So just under 1,500 square feet. And the canopy for the solar over the parking area is just beyond the size of the existing parking area. The posts are proposed to just kind of follow the curb line of that existing parking lot. So it's largely the same. It's a small amount of square feet. I don't know the exact number over the existing impervious area for that location, but it's to make an argument that it's a negligible amount in addition to.
And the three parking spaces.
Those 3 parking spaces, they're 9 by 20, so that would be 540 square feet additional.
1,500 was the facilities building, and then just a 9 by 20, and almost 3 of those spots would be covered.
The new asphalt that's associated with
Just those 2 darkened spots.
it's labeled new asphalt associated with the relocation of the trash facilities.
Yes, correct. Yeah, in that area, I'm sorry to say I don't actually know the square footage of that location for that new enclosure and for that asphalt area. My guess would be it's somewhere in the 1,000 square feet to 1,200 square feet. I'd certainly make sure you get that information.
And on the drawing here, there's like it looks like a box around the box called out as a maintenance building. Is that like, I'm not sure what that is.
To be totally honest, I asked my colleague that too, as I was helping to sub in for this, because I didn't put these drawings together, but I think that may be what was intended to be the solar on top of the roof of the building, but I am not entirely sure. The outer perimeter of this box, there's a gap that shows 2 garage bays, but that outer perimeter is what is intended to be that's the footprint of the building.
Oh, okay. So that,
not the inner
the
rectangular box.
Goes there, I see.
Yeah, sorry for the
Gotcha.
language confusion.
Yeah, so I guess I think we'd want to show that the new work, like the different areas individually meet the stormwater standards, basically, do calculations or whatever.
The calculations of what those dry wells are taking into consideration.
Yeah, exactly. Sure.
And I'm sorry, I don't know that much about stormwater, but if it's a dry well, does that mean that it would be drained into the buffer zone?
The idea would be infiltration, presumably, which is why we would need the test pit information and the volume calculations.
I think we'd like the calculations for total new impervious in the buffer zone as well. We don't have that calculation in the NOI application.
Yeah.
Also just draw our attention really quickly to the NOI narrative that was submitted with this project. Does describe that this line here seems to contradict what we were just saying.
Mm-hmm.
Which line, where?
New paved areas will drain to existing catch basins.
Okay, I believe what that is referring to is that those 3 new parking spaces would drain to the existing drainage system that the existing parking lot drains to, which I believe is in the center of the lot, just under the the label, the stormwater canopy over parking area. There's a catch basin central to that. And then the new asphalt pavement that's in the southeast of the proposed work where the trash collection area would go, that would drain out into towards the existing asphalt drive lane and into an existing catch basin there, because those are relatively small areas of asphalt. We did not think that they would be a problem onto the system, onto the existing drainage system, but we're happy to include those calculations in there.
Your narrative also indicates that the solar canopy is going to be draining to the existing stormwater system.
That is because it's taking the, basically it's, it's covering over the existing footprint of that asphalt already. And so we're not bringing in new impervious cover. That rainfall that would hit that parking lot is basically that.
So you're not adding to it, it's what is already there.
It is, yeah, the roof structure is almost the same footprint as the parking lot.
Does that trip redevelopment though, and then you have to look at the capacity, and then it would have the new standards, right?
I mean, I have a question about flow rates too. Like, are we safe to assume that the way a parking lot drains is identical to the way that the solar canopy with gutters will drain?
I think it's close enough. It's the same like when when rainwater is hitting that parking lot, there's a surface runoff that is conveying to that central location of that catch basin in the middle of the parking lot. So the same, would be occurring with the root system falling and draining to gutters. There's still a conveyance of, kind of a broad flow that then goes into a centralized system, but ends up going into the existing plumbing system for that footprint, for that area. For the new maintenance building and for the new duplex buildings, we're proposing that those would be flowing to dry wells.
Do you know, Dan, if it can be over the existing area trips us into redevelopment?
I wouldn't. I guess I wouldn't. It could, right? But is it worth doing it? I mean, really, the solar canopy is going to be cleaner runoff than what's coming off the parking lot, so it may actually mean less pollutants going to a stormwater treatment system. So I think the amount of water is the same, but maybe the pollutants are even less, just because stuff isn't getting washed off the parking lot so much. That would be how I would look at it, I guess. In terms of the added impervious of parking spaces, it's probably not going to overwhelm stormwater treatment system for such a large complex, but it'd be nice just to, maybe it would be nice if we had this stormwater report from when this area was originally constructed, just to see, just so we kind of understand the system and know how much capacity there was, it's probably going to be fine, but it'd be nice to just be able to take a quick look at it.
Eva, do you know if this?
I can certainly pull what we have on file and get that to the commission before the next meeting.
That'd be greatly appreciated. I know Jeff's had conversations with folks in the city. Maybe with yourself also. I don't know if we have the stormwater report from 2005, but if the city does, that's certainly very helpful.
Does Lathrop have it on file?
Reaching out to Jeff right now to see if he's already seen it, but I would imagine we have it.
Thank you.
What is the square footage of the other proposed work area impervious?
Those two buildings are 1,640 square feet.
Total or each?
I believe that's each. So 3,280.
And then new parking spots for both.
Those two new, that what is connected to the building, I believe is 20 by 20 or 18 by 20, but I would need to come back and confirm that since we don't have that shown on the plans.
You'll see from the photos you took that there are parking spots already there, so they would just be.
Well, those actually we're relocating to the other side, from one side, from east side to the west side of that proposed location. But those two parking spaces that are shown on the that are shown on the plans here are being proposed. I don't know, this is probably very difficult to see from such a distance. But the parking spaces that are being shown to the west of the building are relocated spots. So they're the same amount of square footage of asphalt. Get rid of the previous asphalt, put the new asphalt in.
So this is where they're currently, right?
That's actually, you can faintly see
Oh,
it
you
under the
can see
photograph,
that,
just
yeah.
under the phrasing of limit of work line.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly right there. There are two existing spots. We've relocated to the east side of the building, but the two spaces that are essentially the driveway for the duplex, that's new asphalt. That we would need to provide those numbers.
Yeah. So we need overall square footage.
Sure.
Both of disturbance, so temporary disturbance in the buffer zone and also permanent new impervious in the buffer zone.
Yeah. And Doug, there's a couple things you said in the overview that I'm a little hung up on.
Okay.
So I think we're at about 6,300 square feet for what's shown here. You said that there are several other locations planned. And I'm guessing that when we add those, we're going to trip over I believe it's 10,000 square feet that trips our ordinance, correct? So that, and then you also straight up said that you submitted just these pieces now of what is essentially the larger project to skirt the new ordinance. So it seems like you're breaking up the project in a way that is getting you around the threshold for the stormwater ordinance.
Yes,
Where it really is a larger project.
Yeah.
And I just have to say that
please.
Given our history with Lathrop and all of the good work that you all are doing, I'm a little disappointed to hear you say that you're trying to skirt an ordinance that is seeking to increase protections.
I want to say that's not accurate. So this is a current project that's not even approved. So it's a idea from the 90s that we reinstituted, looking at different townhomes that could be, but we don't have a project yet. So this is a pre-schematic design to potentially a future project. The only thing we really want now is the solar in the facilities building. In the future, there could be more townhomes. That's been occurring for years. So for 20, 30 years, Lathrop has looked at different parts of the community, including back in 2019, where there was potentially 42 townhomes being proposed. So we are looking at other opportunities. An expansion on the end, but right now we do not have a approved project, and so these two buildings are part of a pre-schematic design. This has not been approved by the board. The only thing that's been approved so far is the facilities building, solar canopy, and the solar on the roof of the end.
So you're looking to permit these now?
This is not being brought tomorrow to the planning board. So we're looking at the facilities building. We are looking at this because we do know that the buffer zone may change from 50 to 100 feet. And so these are the only two buildings of potential future planning that could be affected. So we were talking earlier about Mulberry Lane, and on that lane, those are the only two spots left at the end of the lane. If you look, we've already develop those other few buildings, and I'm really not sure if funding was of concern, why they didn't build those two buildings years ago. But we are looking to essentially grandfather this in to have the ability, so it's not skirting the groundwater rules. Those are all regulations which we're more than to abide with in the future. But we don't know what we have for a project right now outside of the solar and facilities building. We attached this because these two townhomes were also going to be affected by the change in wetlands, and that would completely eliminate what we could do here.
Thank you for clarifying that. Yeah, my statement was not at all about attempting to skirt the stormwater requirements for the
No,
overall
but the ordinance.
Correct. Yeah, for the wetlands ordinance, here's a location that if it could be grandfathered in or reviewed in such a way to allow that. We wanted to entertain that option and certainly discuss it. We're not trying to, greasy in some way or change that, get around the regulations for it. Certainly, it's my understanding that the overall view is just under an acre of potential development, but this is still a pre-schematic phase for this work and for this one location. This was the only location that was within the 50-foot buffer that would, that change in regulations would affect whether or not this is even a possible site.
How would this would go would be if we did issue an order of conditions for these things together, then that is a 3-year, expiration date, basically, in which case you'd have to come back. If this hadn't been constructed by that point in time, you'd have to come back for a renewal of that NOI, that order of conditions, and then we'd be probably discussing whether or not we wanted to, given what the new ordinance would have in it. So, I think that would be our discretion to deny an extension at that point. So just be aware, like even if we say, okay, fine, go, then it's for 3 years, and may not be for any longer than that.
There are two issues. I just want to enumerate that there are sort of two issues at play here, right? There's our draft wetlands ordinance, will have a 50-foot no disturb zone, which is what we're speaking about here. And there's also our stormwater ordinance, which explicitly mentions that stormwater projects cannot be brought segmented when they are part of a larger common plan. And I've had several conversations with Jeff Squire about this since he initially reached out regarding expansions at Lathrop in March, and permitting pathways several times, noting that this appears to be a multi-phase project that will require a stormwater permit alongside an order of conditions. Our stormwater ordinance does not, I'm just reading an email that I sent him, our stormwater ordinance does not allow for project segmentation. My recommendation would be to review this as one NOI and stormwater system. Given that we know, and it's been mentioned now several times, that there are future expansions on the horizon, the commission often reviews development as a multi-phased project. That's a common occurrence, and our ordinance is written to prevent segmentation so that we don't create gaps in our stormwater systems by just taking it like little bit by little bit by little bit. So that's the other issue at play here, is how does the commission want to proceed to review this to ensure that we don't find ourselves reviewing another project that's clearly part of this larger common plan, which our stormwater ordinance explicitly doesn't allow.
Thank you for sharing that. I did not know that exchange.
And to my knowledge, we don't have a good precedent for how to handle that, do we?
No. So when we were talking about dry wells and such before, I was thinking about canopies, but this duplex would also be dry wells essentially. For the roof.
That's what's currently proposed for this current compliance.
Trees.
Yeah, let's skip to that. It's very tricky.
So the tree inventory, you've seen this image that was recently presented for you. And here we have, so how many trees is it in total?
There are 10 trees that were part of the letter with Kestrel. That was part of the CR. And then there's another 7 trees that were outside of that, but still within the 100-foot buffer.
Okay, so 17 trees total. These are some of the trees you can see our edge here. We haven't actually, do we want to look at the overall site photos first, just to get all the commissioners oriented, or should stay here?
Let's stay here.
Okay, great. So the parking lot is over to the side here. You can see where the van is parked. So this black cherry and this black oak, and then there's a couple oaks, and here's our wetland line is down in here. Maple, that to me looks like it's really growing right on that wetland line. Nice big ironwoods. So these are just the 10, I imagine, that are in the CR, right?
That's correct. Yeah, I don't have photos of the other trees that are on site.
Who was it that looked at the condition of them and said that they were hazards?
I don't know specifically. I thought, it's my understanding it was somebody with, the, connected with the, solar installation company. It may have been an arborist. I'm certainly happy to track that down and confirm that.
And Emma, what does our tree policy call for?
You can remove up to 5 trees if they're all deemed hazardous just through administrative approval. So like if that was the only thing you were doing, you could remove 5 trees and replace them 1-to-1 in either resource areas or buffer zones, as long as they are determined hazardous by an arborist.
By any Massachusetts certified arborist?
Yeah, we have the certifications in our policy there. I can pull them up. But I will say, my understanding from discussions with Jeff in the field was not that they were necessarily all hazardous trees, but that some of them would just be problematic for the solar.
Yeah, I mean, I see at the bottom, some of them have like diseased or poor condition, but others don't. So I'm assuming that is not the case for several of them.
Exactly. I don't think all of these trees are hazard trees.
Some of them are actually very healthy trees right now near the brown sheds. It's just that they are about that 40-foot mark, and therefore if they were to fall or branches were to fall, they would go right there. The one which says tree 1 right in that location, all in on it, it could fall on solar canopy.
Which would not qualify as a hazard tree.
It would be according to kestrel harvesting tree. There, 2 is a hazard. Any large holes in that one. Therefore, give to employees those trees that are of good nature. You can see actually the very large pine that if we can leave behind, we would. That's not far back behind the big fan. That's one of the coniferous trees that we would have to take. That's right behind the facilities building. You can see it not far back. That's outside of Kestrel.
Would you like more information about the health and hazard status of all 17 trees? So I think we also need the information about species and caliper of the other 7 trees, given that they're also in the buffer zone. So
was there a third big review? Those were the 2 things we wanted to come back to.
Trees and stormwater. Yep, and this larger common project, which is related to the stormwater piece. There was a third issue that I think the site visits will illuminate well. So here's the site visit. We're talking about Patrick here is showing where the edge of the solar canopy would be. And this is where the existing that will be the maintenance building. And this is where the new trash location will be. To the right of there, or to the left of there. Okay. And I think Jeff is showing the extent here. We are really close. We are quite close to the slope here. Like we're right, not a super steep slope, but it's a very buffer zone feeling project, I will say, unsurprisingly, because we're in the inner buffer zone for parts of this. Or right on the edge of the inner and outer buffer zone.
Does that mean it would involve fill?
My understanding is that right there, we're at that slope, but the wetland actually drops in a lot further at that point as well.
And we are working off a delineation from Ward Smith from several years ago, but he did go back out and confirm the delineation for Jeff, and we have that letter in the file. So
your grading plan indicates that there would be fill on this slope.
Graded.
There is regrading that is proposed behind the new enclosure area, I think, in this location.
It builds the slope further up.
that would need to be regraded in that location. We can certainly quantify that area of disturbance if they want.
We need the overall area of disturbance, right? Do you want a more specific calculation there?
We're not in flood zone, are we?
I don't believe so.
I don't believe we are.
Yeah, here we're looking, I'm sort of standing below the maintenance building, the proposed maintenance building, looking down towards the wetland here. Okay, and now we walk to the duplex location. So we were walking across the site. And here is our wetland on the duplex side of things. It's marked with these stakes. So we discussed this in the field, but the wetland has currently is being mowed, which I think we would not want to see moving forward.
So where are we relative to?
We are right in here. So these flags mark our, if we can see our stakes faintly in here.
Gotcha.
And then it, in this woods area is also all wetland.
Yeah.
But this wet meadow of sorts appears to have been continually mowed. Here's Jeff standing at where he thinks the edge of one of the buildings will be in proportion to the stakes. I'm just taking some here. This delineation appeared to be in order in both. I believe here I'm like looking across at where our building would go. Is that correct?
About
I believe so, yes, that's correct.
21 or 22 feet from the wetland edge with the building. That sound right?
That sounds about right. I don't know the exact number, but that looks.
Is this building gonna have a basement?
I don't believe so, it's not.
And here Jeff standing on the other corner of the building, closer to the road, closer to Mulberry Lane, standing at what he thinks is, none of these were marked in the field. So these were Jeff's field estimates of where the building will be. And I believe we're at the parking spots here. Remember what this was, Commissioner Weeks?
Holes drilled by yellow bellied sapsucker.
There you go.
Step one. And that's where our,
All of those are quite old. Those are not new.
so that was what our site visit confirmed. My takeaways from the site visit, and commissioners feel free to chime in, but was that the site is quite close to the wetland, the proposed build area is quite close to the wetland, and that this wet meadow is currently being mowed, which is not auspicious for wetlands.
And in addition to being 22 feet from the wetland, we're looking to fill up to about 6 feet from the wetland.
There's currently grading proposed. Again, this is a very schematic, like early conceptual design of this location. We could certainly look at how things are graded, but there was some shifting, some regrading work behind the building right now in this current proposal. All that could be, restored back to its current condition and then, put with the additional stipulations of, to have a different mowing regime and a different maintenance regime. That's, meets best practices. Certainly better than mowing in the buffer on a regular basis. Certainly all up for debate. I think for what we were hoping tonight, there's, the real, as Patrick mentioned, the, concretely, Lathrop has, funding set aside for the work that's proposed around the Lathrop Inn for the solar canopy and for the relocated trash collection area and for the relocation of those 3 sheds. And for this location, we were hoping to just discuss this possibility with you if there is room or a way forward to grandfather this in, pre the change of the wetland ordinance for the town, that would preclude the site from ever being a possibility. Certainly happy to entertain any ideas or what may be possibilities for a path forward.
Solar timeline is based on a Safe Harbor Act too, so we're trying to rush to get the solar, and that's why that was also approved to the board. Put down 5% for the Safe Harbor.
Which I will just note for the commission, when Jeff reached out to me in March about this project, suggested that the solar could be permitted independently of any other additional projects, but that would be the fastest pathway here, given that it's a relatively small amount of additional impervious area. And it's all buffer zone. I suspected that it could be, without knowing the extent of tree clearing required. Initially, I thought it could be an RDA. I think with the tree clearing, my intuition says NOI regardless, but that permitting that independently of any additional changes would have been the fastest permitting pathway.
Yeah, as it stands, I think we have to figure out how to handle this so that we can assume that it gets rolled into a larger project, but be able to review and approve a stormwater system for these elements now, knowing that that's not going to screw up the larger review and interpretation and somehow get that to be rolled into a stormwater permit, which we have no precedent for. So I'm not quite sure how we work that. And then there's the additional information that we need on both the trees and the test pits and drainage calculations.
Certainly.
What am I missing?
I guess if I can share this, I just would make
Water report.
pull what I have from both the original build in 97 and the last expansion. I just would return the commission and the applicant to the language in the Wetlands Protection Act around burden of proof, specifically around the protection of the interests identified in the act, just that any person who files a notice of intent to perform work within the buffer zone of an area subject to protection has the burden of demonstrating to the issue authority, here the Conservation Commission, that either that the area is not significant to the protections of the protection of any of the interests identified in the act, or that it won't inhibit the ability of the resource areas to perform to function as their resource areas.
To your point, we'd be happy to illuminate a little more on certainly how how the proposed activities will not cause any adverse impacts to the existing.
Yeah, I think drawing that out a little more, given how close we are, would be illustrative.
Yeah, and I would also say that it has been our practice for the last several years at least to try to get at least a 25-foot buffer.
Okay.
Just as a, not a firm requirement, but as a measure of protection and something that we've asked folks to cooperate with.
Sure.
So to the extent that we can get this at least further from the wetland edge.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for clarifying that. We'd be happy to review that and see what we can do. Yeah.
And I would like to see that the mowing of that wetland, now that it's been flagged and identified, cease immediately.
Okay.
That is not allowable.
Yeah, and with the duplex specifically, given the wetland location and the kind of how everything fits in, I doubt there would be the separation between the bottom of the dry well and groundwater levels that would get the infiltration you'd really need to manage stormwater at this location. I mean, if there's a test pit to show something to the contrary, then okay, but really would want to see how everything, is designed out and that it will function properly to meet the stormwater management standards.
Certainly.
Yep.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Yeah.
Anything else to discuss in this meeting?
Any other pressing questions tonight? We're obviously coming back to this one.
You want to take public comment?
Yeah, we did have public comment, so would you introduce yourself for the record?
Asked and answered, and just kudos for being so plain spoken.
Okay. Anybody else? And can we have a motion to continue? Let me ask, do you anticipate, or when is our next meeting?
Our next meeting is June 8th.
Do you anticipate being able to have all that information to us in advance of that?
I think so. Yes.
Okay. So can we get a
Motion to continue to June 8th at 6 p.m.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks.
Thanks.
What is this? 7C out of order.
Is that the can?
Yeah.
Yes, let's do that. We don't have
Motion to take 7C out of order.
Second. All those in favor? So moved. All right. So we're going to jump forward to open space updates, item C, which is the Camp Cook Highland Avenue parcel hunting usage and scout usage. I know we have a number of folks here. Do you have a statement, or Ava? I know you have a.
Yeah, maybe
kind of
I'll
an
just,
idea what this one.
yeah, I'll just maybe lay out where we are. First of all, thank you all for waiting. Appreciate that. Good general practice of the commission to get through the public hearings first. So thank you all for your patience. So we, after following our conversation with the scouts and their proposal for some shared stewardship responsibilities of Camp Cook, which is the parcel, we'll just take a look at it quick. It's this parcel at the end of Highland Ave. It's a plateau of sorts above these tributaries, intermittent streams that flow into the Manhan. We have the Manhan close by here. 16.6 acres. It has some existing trails. It was historically the Boy Scout campground. It was deeded to the city. It's under the care and commission of the Conservation Commission. So following our conversation, the proposal from the scouts for sporadic camping usage and stewardship responsibilities. We highlighted some potential conversation topics, discussion topics regarding the change of use of it. So we issued this letter to the neighbors of Highland Ave. I left one of these letters at every door on Highland Ave. Couldn't decide where a butter stopped. So I was just like, we'll do the whole street. And then also the abutter on the other side of off of Lovefield Way. So the abutter who owns the large parcel back there, Mr. LaValle. So we issued this letter. We also posted it in a larger format, laminated at the trailhead. So any regular users of it. And so some of you ended up here. Thank you for coming. So the main two conversation topics, as I see them, are the main two changes. So currently our usage of the parcel is that, so it's Conservation Commission parcel. It's open to passive recreation, inclusive of hunting, as all Conservation Commission parcels are, unless otherwise noted. So we have a discussion about potentially changing the hunting restrictions on the parcel, and all Conservation Commission parcels currently are open dawn to dusk as standard outdoor lands practices. So we're discussing whether or not to allow specific groups to camp there for periods of time. So
just to clarify, Ava, we're discussing disallowing hunting because it's currently allowed.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah. Yep. Sort of de facto at all of our conservation lands, they're all open dawn to dusk. They're all open to the general public, to walking, to hiking, and they're all also open to hunting unless otherwise specified.
Okay.
So those are kind of our two topics, and we did invite the public here to offer their thoughts on that, and the neighbors of Highland Ave and the historic users of it. So I don't know if we have anything else. Do you have anything more to say here?
I don't. I think unless other commissioners have comments, we can go straight to public comment. Just introduce yourself for the record, please, if you would.
Just to offer some feedback. So I'm Matt Charlier. I'm the Scoutmaster for Troop 209 out of Westhampton. You want me to go there? It's just here.
You can wherever you'd like to be.
See here. So I did have the opportunity to speak with one of the abutters, Kelly. She owns the farm, and I had a nice 20-minute conversation with her on the phone prior to actually going out to the property with her. She was in full support of what we are proposing to the town, even granting with prior approval access to her property, because there's a trail that runs down to the Manhan River to allow the scouts to use that area for fishing. So we walked that property area together. I believe she said she was going to send a letter. I don't know if she did. She did not. That was okay. But again, the conversation was very positive with her. Hopefully everyone else as well. I did mark 3 proposed campsite areas the best I could. As everything started to green, the area was a little harder to notice than it was in the winter time when we were there with snow covering. But they were again on the backside of the camp property. I know we marked them out last time, but on that last corner on the bottom right side of the property is basically where those are proposed. Walking the trail, I guess this last time to mark those areas, those trails that are listed on alltrails.com, they are very hard to tell really where they are unless you're following the map. So, having that defined area, which is one of the things that we are proposing, is to clean the trails, have them clearly marked pathways, would greatly enhance the property for anybody that is using it, public or scout related. And we did discover, I sent you a couple pictures, now that the snow melted, an abundance of trash that was out there. There was a sink, some, big pieces of metal. So like I said, cleaning that property up, would not only benefit, but also safety reasons as well.
I will just note that Kelly did call and she expressed similar to what Matt said, her support for that usage of the parcel.
I did speak to Kelly also, and she did mention something about maybe restricting hunting to bow season only, as opposed to a rifle kind of a situation. She says people who come onto the property from the backside, not from the Highland Avenue side, they come onto the property from different directions. So,
which would be the concern about the signage.
Yes, that's correct.
She did express that to me as well. She talked about the city could have a specific hunting permit, bow hunting permit for this parcel, that we could sell at the clerk's office, that could be for a limited season, a smaller season than the whole bow hunting season, and could just be for 1 to 3 hunters was Kelly's proposal. So that's something to consider.
Do we issue hunting permits for our properties now, or would that would be something to do? We would have to.
That would be something.
Right?
Do we have the structure in place for that to be a possibility?
What a good question. So Mass Audubon does that, right? Mm-hmm. So Mass Audubon allows bow hunts of their properties. They allow, I believe it's 10 hunters at Arcadia during bow hunting season to bow hunt. So this is a thing you can do. You can allow specific hunters through. The city would have to do it through a lottery process. We can't. Right. We have to be impartial about who we select there. Sure. If we got more people submitting than the minimum number. Right. In terms of whether or not we have the infrastructure to do that, I think that's a
You're the infrastructure.
Right. I mean, me plus the city clerk. I assume it can go through the clerk's office. Right. I can't say it strikes me as like can't say it strikes me as like the absolute best usage of time given the size of this parcel. So I just would flag that the commission could pursue that, but it's a relatively small parcel, again, 16.6 acres. Yeah. And we don't do that for any of our other parcels.
Correct.
Okay. So that's something to note. I did receive a question, in the chat. Can I ask that question and then, or,
Yeah.
okay, great. From Noah Dowd, they asked, are there any estimates regarding the increase of vehicle traffic this proposal would cause on Highland Ave?
So based on our typical camping trips that we mentioned before, there's always a requirement of having 2 liters on any event wherever there's a scout house presence. So particularly this weekend, we just did a camping trip. So there was 3 liters, there's 3 vehicles, and it's not that far of a walk to where if we needed to move vehicles off site, we could definitely do so as well. It is a public street as well, so we'll respect those who live there. And there's plenty of, instead of parking, at the Papa George side of the road, if needed.
There's also space for 2 or 3 vehicles right here on the end.
That was my
The
recollection.
city's land. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a driveway. That is a paper street, right?
Yep. So this is city land. The gentleman who lives in the house here, I actually met him on site today. And he says hello. And he also expressed support for this proposal, for Boy Scout camping usage there. And he said, yeah, so he has a driveway easement over this public land. So he keeps it clear in the winter because he has to get in and out. But our conservation parcel does start at the end of the public way there.
We noted a little concern when we went out and to that property previous to the last town meeting here. There is some growth in the area, so while it may look like on paper there's space, there may require some additional, like if there was to be a parking there, which would not be anything we would be proposing until later if it was even needed. That would be the only concern. Like I said, looking at a paper, it looks like there's space, but when you're actually there is growth there. So that would have to be pushed back, especially if we were going to be, friendly neighbors. He does have a driveway, but his parking is in the back. He doesn't have, a parking area on the front roadside. Of that
Definitely
street,
some
so.
care taken not to block his driveway would be key.
Yeah. And there's, I believe, from what we talked about when we did walk the path, there are like old telephone pole sections that looks like it used to be a gate there at one point. I mean, there is plenty of area if we needed like to drive in where it's not blocking his driveway. But again, if we needed to be off site, that is totally fine as well too. We're used to carrying things in.
You know.
And now, yes.
But and I would argue if it's open to the public now and you're looking at 2 or 3 cars at any given time, that I wouldn't consider that a real change. I don't know how many people come here, probably not too many because it's not very well known, but I would say that's pretty
I would think most
insignificant.
people that walk the property now just park roadside anyways.
But you don't have like 10 or 20 campers' parents dropping
No.
them off.
No, we all meet when we have a camping trip, and any of these scouts can attest to this. We meet at a central location to load our gear, and then we carpool to limit the amount of traffic. One, obviously, the environment, 2, better for the families, and then it's less we have to worry about at the site, like to with all the traffic in and out. I mean, we just drove, an hour and a half to New York and 3 vehicles, so.
Introduce yourself for the record, please.
My name is Jason Vogel. I live at 63 Highland. I was saying, and I've had some correspondence with Ava. There's a secondary or intermittent river that intersects with the proposed site. And so in talking to all of my neighbors, from my experience, everybody is pretty excited for that area to be used in such a stewarded way. I myself am a former Cub Scout, so I think my concerns are pretty much threefold. The first is the hunting. There's been such a spectacular diminution of wildlife in that area, and there are badgers and there are bears. So I'm humbly requesting we don't hunt, but certainly if we're about them. The second concern is the Congressman. I trust you to figure that out. It sounds like it would be limited. I don't know how many times per year the site is being intended to be used, but maybe you could answer that. And then the third concern is the trash, as you so noted. Just because on my property there is a comical degree of very hazardous seeming trash, like unidentifiable 50-gallon drums in the water. And so, I would like to work with you in maybe scheduling or coordinating a cleanup of all of those tributaries, just as a civic duty.
So I'll just note that, I think, the Conservation Commission doesn't want material in any resource areas, period. I'll just note, though, I think it's good for the commission and the public to notice where the property line of the commission is with regards to the waterways. So just that there isn't actually, there aren't any resource areas on site. So just that you would be doing cleanup on other people's property. On private property at your own risk.
I think as we noted at the last meeting, this property is elevated compared to where the water runoff is. I mean, I don't know how all that plays in, but yeah, it is a significant drop down. And then even from that backside to get to the manhand on behind Kelly's property is a good walk. It's still, it's not right there. But as the trash cleanup, as I mentioned, what is there on the property, those are current hazards, and anything that we do on a property, whether it's just a day or a weekend, as these guys follow the leave no trace principle. Everything that we bring in, we bring out, and we actually double check to make sure there's not extra trash that was there before. We're going to take it out with us.
There's also a rank requirement where you have to measure the trash, make sure everything's taken out. So that would definitely help.
As far as the usage terms, it's kind of an unknown. We probably projected, for our troop use, I would not guess it would be more than, for a weekend. I couldn't imagine more than, a half dozen times, just because there's only 12 months in a year and we do go other places. We have our set functions, then we have our other weekends where we're traveling. I said, we just went to New York. We're going to Martha's Vineyard this year. So it's not like we're going to be there every month, but we would like the option to have some day use where we could do some merit badge classes. We could go out there. It doesn't have to be a whole weekend, but we could go out there for the day, do some, cooking, merit badge. As we mentioned, wilderness of, first aid, those types of things. Just an extra option of a location to go. And with the scouts having requirements for conservation hours, which is to me, Ava, this would be a good opportunity for the scouts, whether it's the troop scouts or even Cub Scouts, to take part in conservation with the trail maintenance. Like I said, keeping it identifiable. And what was I going with this? Future Eagle projects as well, you know, to beautify the space, you know, if we say campsite, but it could also be picnic site, right? It could have twofold for that too. So, you know, and we mentioned last time, you know, maybe the scouts could, you know, if there's an Eagle project where they maybe want to build picnic tables, that, you know, add to an area, just gives that one extra little space. I think of the, I'm gonna forget the name, but the little park right at the intersection there. Forget her name, but
The wayside.
The roof.
yeah, Roots,
Yeah.
Roots, yeah, the roof park, like it's one little picnic table, like people don't even know it's a park, right?
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, I mean, I also see a composting toilet, particularly if this site has continual overnight usage, as a good potential Eagle Scout project or
Yeah.
site improvement. Maybe we could take some other public comment.
I was just gonna also say, I'll give you my information, and if you're ever interested in camping behind my tree line, I have some land. I've been looking to.
Sorry, I'm sitting way too long. Ken, I live on. I've hiked around here. It's a mountain biking back on the trails were more visible a few years ago. Anyways, I think it's a great idea. Guys coming in. Okay. Other than that, the only thing I got two things. One is, when I go up in the area, I see all the problems there. And one of them is the deer. I think it's important. I personally, I think would be good to limit it to bow hunting only. And I've been involved with a few other projects where we've limited something and actually stopped it from being shut down. Best thing I see is take your property line and just post it with bow hunting only or whatever you got to make it legal so you can prosecute somebody who comes on. I personally don't hunt the neighborhood yet. But I'm also tired of not having apples on my trees. And I put a big fence in because the deer ate this guy off of my arborvitaes right across. So there is a growing problem with the deer, thanks in part to Arcadia. You can see 26 deer in one night, like cows. It's not good. But I'm all for it. If you even wanted some help with the posting, I volunteer my time. I'm retired. Yeah, I think it's an awesome idea. And like I say, making it bow huntable, you don't have to worry about bullet flying around past your target, number one. I mean, it's only a 2-week period, but the bow hunting, you're a lot more close to whatever you're doing. And I've met a few people that hunt there. I don't. You can take all the deer they want. I take them out of my backyard, but I don't have quite enough room.
Any other comment?
So with the bow hunting, like that could definitely be an easy blackout period. Like we're not going to go on that property during bow hunting. Like that's
So
it's probably not a non-issue anyways. But
I mean, it is a longer season. That's, something interesting about it, right? If we restrict the usage of it to just bow hunting, shotgun season's so short. It's, as you said, 2 weeks. Bow hunting season is from this upcoming year, 2026. In the fall, it's for deer. It's October 5th to November 28th. So it is a relatively substantial season. And, like all of our conservation parcels, typically they're just use at your own risk during hunting season. We tell people should wear blaze orange, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. So that's just something I would know. I mean, we could,
Another thing too is there's no hunting on Sunday. So if you want to plan something like you said, the 1-day things,
You do like a Sunday, yeah.
There's discussion right now,
Yeah,
changing that at the state level.
Yeah. Been involved with this stuff for 40-some years. If it happens, I'll patrol the place myself.
Were you gonna say something, Matt?
I mean, coming in here, I was asked about the property, again, we talked about this at the last meeting as to, if the scouts own the property, and I informed them, when that date of transfer happened, which was 1953. But as I'm asked the question, this is what started this whole conversation, was the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts used that property all the way through the 90s. And, I questioned as to why those units stopped using the property. And, if that was something that we could revisit. And so that's how this whole thing came about. The Girl Scouts used to hold summer camp there until they moved to another property in Southampton. Just having youth involvement in bettering the community, I cannot see a downside to this. I am grateful to hear the public support of this. Again, I thank you guys for taking the time for this consideration.
So just to return to the hunting question, because it seems as though, just to take the temperature of what has been said, it seems as though there's pretty widespread support for sporadic camping usage by the Boy Scouts on the parcel. I haven't heard any opposition to it from the neighborhood, which is really great to hear. The hunting question, I think, is more complicated. There are existing deer stands on the property which have not come down. I understand they have not come down outside of hunting season. They're up right now. We're in turkey season, but you can't keep stands up year round. These stands have been up year round. So we have an issue with how to handle the existing stands on the site regardless, or like as one thing. And then also how we want to move forward with hunting on the parcel.
I was told you have to put your identification on the stand if you're going to have a stand. So if there's no ID on it, then
we can remove them. I haven't looked closely.
Yeah, I didn't get into the details, but
yeah, if there is identification on them, I can certainly call the numbers. And if anyone knows whose stands they are, Kelly might. Yeah. I just would recommend that those folks reach out.
Kelly told me there's no ID on the three of them.
Okay.
Yeah, she didn't know whose they were when I was out there, and I haven't gotten close enough to them to look. Sure.
So then the commission can take those stands down. Can put out into the world that we're going to take the stands down in a couple weeks if they aren't removed. So we'll just note that. But then the conversation about hunting moving forward on the parcel.
I like the compromise of keeping bow, I think,
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that. I think that's a safer option. Even if it's a longer season, I think it's a safer option.
Yeah. And I do think there is, from a conservation perspective, given that we don't have large predators in high numbers, there is an argument to be made for deer hunting to keep things in balance. So I think in particular, the deer hunting is of value to conservation properties in a lot of instances.
And I don't feel like we need to do like a tag or a limited
lottery system,
at least unless we have problems, But I think we can just start off saying bow hunting only and then see what happens. So I don't expect it's going to be over hunted.
To not put a burden on the city for, licensing that isn't really required, maybe.
And it's open to hunting now, so we're not opening it newly. I don't think we're going to have a big rush.
If you run something like that, you're going to draw attention to it.
If we had a lottery, that people are gonna want to apply.
Put in,
Yeah.
I know hunters and stuff, and you know, I never, because when I grew up there, I up until 5-6 years ago, I didn't know anybody hunted around there anymore. And last winter, I was at Easthampton Run Gun Club, and 2 guys came in and checked 2 deer, and they had shot one down in there somewhere shooting shotgun. And I'm like, oh, I mean, like I say, I see the deer, the fawns, I see the does. So I know the deer around, but I don't know the places. So, but yeah, my only point is, if you put something like that out, it can draw attention. People may want to check it out just because, and it is a very small area. So whoever does hunt it, it's you know, we don't usually see too much of it. Kelly does, but she owns a lot of property. So.
Yeah.
I'll also note that hunting hours are only a half hour before sunrise and a half hour after sunset. So in terms of overnight usage, you know, people can't hunt not in the middle of the night. So
I don't see the issue for camping there. If that was to be, I'd probably put those 2 months more of a day use, maybe meeting time, you know, our group meetings are Thursday nights. You know, I could probably see us using it more for, you know, a 2-hour block on a Thursday night more than a weekend, only knowing what we do during October and November.
right, yeah. So I think something I'd like to see for this parcel, knowing that we are introducing a new change of use, and that there's going to be new folks on the parcel, and you know, I know that Tim, the direct neighbor there over in the little triangle, was like, when he saw the scouts, he was like, I've never seen scouts marching through here before. Like, it's so cool. And so just, you know, knowing that there's going to be observations, I think a priority of having a sign out there stating this is Easthampton Conservation Commission land. The commission will take on that piece of it. We've been working on a signage campaign. I think if the scouts if the scouts could work on a kiosk that we could put some information about the parcel, if that could be a scouting project, does that seem something we could accomplish?
Just an Eagle candidate right here who's looking for Eagle projects. We have another one as well. What is your take on a kiosk?
I think it depends on the size for it to be a full complete Eagle project. But if the Eagle candidate doing it would like also like build some benches or something for it, then I think
I think we'd be happy to make this as a robust of a project as you'd like it to be. Yeah, but I think a kiosk would be good so we can have some information out there for the neighbors as usage changes, specifically with the changes to hunting as well.
I'm pretty sure we also, over the last fall, we had a Eagle project build some other kiosks in Westhampton.
Tried and true Eagle Scout project.
So the answer is yes.
Great.
That should not be a problem.
Awesome.
Excellent. Ava, is there anything logistically or officially that we need to, like, a process to this?
We started putting together an MOU.
Yep.
I think it would be good to have something on record. I just started drafting this, based on MOUs that other communities have with nonprofit organizations. So something that just lays out the shared responsibility of, I said here, Camp Cook should be co-managed by the Boy Scouts of America and the Commission on a voluntary basis in accordance with the terms of this memorandum. So the idea that the stewardship responsibilities will be shared. I think we'd like to probably enumerate that, keeping the site free of trash is going to be a responsibility of the troop and the pack. Laying out, I started it here, but just laying out that it's open to the general public during daylight hours, but only overnight camping to groups approved through this MOU Which I did want to just clarify. I know that Troop 210 has been mentioned. This is really between 209 and, right? The Troop 209 and Pack 209 has 210.
So Troop 210
Yeah.
and Troop 209 are the ones really that we meet together currently.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So it'd be more of just the troop side as far as the handling of everything. Probably more so the Troop 209 leadership. So for item number 2, I'd probably feel more comfortable changing the language to having it reference our troop rather than BSA, because it's not going through the council, it's through our unit itself.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
And do we want to enumerate the packs as well?
Yeah, you could put that. Yeah, I think, okay.
Yeah, and, for the record, Tim Pool, I live at 151 Loudville, but a parent of, one in Troop 209, one Pack 209. I think that the differentiation for the language is more, preferring to keep Boy Scouts of America out because they aren't directly associated with it. The stewards would be Troop 209 and 210, and then Pack 209 and 210 would assist the troop in some of the stewardship, more of kind of like the trash cleanup and similar. They would on occasion also use the property, but it's primarily the troop who would take that stewardship role.
Okay. Okay. Do we not want the language of the Boy Scouts of America anywhere in this? Because you are a subsidiary organization of them, right?
Yes. We are our own charter unit. Every unit has their own charter organization. Ours is the Westhampton Volunteer Firefighters Association. So we're not like better.
I think it should be Troop 209 and 210 of the Boy Scouts of America, not Boy Scouts of America.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. It's we don't want to put responsibility. The parent organization is not here joining into this agreement. Yeah.
Right.
I'm with you.
Okay. All right. And I'll fuss with the language and then I'll send it back to you guys to work it out too. You can review it before you sign it and let me know if there's changes.
If you wanted to be real technical, you would just make it Scouting America now.
All right.
They rebranded what, last year?
Yeah.
Scouting America?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
If it was Girl Scouts, it'd be even more complicated.
Okay. And yeah, so I think like broadly management, preservation of the site, stewardship of the site is we're not relinquishing our role there. We're sharing it, right? That's what this is going to do. So I do think we're going to lay out the procedure for overnight use. My intention with that is to just basically say that these troops are able to use it without prior notification, or do we want, well, that's a question. Do we want prior notification? Do we just want prior notification if it's a different group? I thought, because there was a discussion about the Girl Scouts or like a different similar organization using the site.
So I think from our side, just to be courteous, as we are, would be just to notify someone, you just, hey, we're gonna be out here, just so you know. I think that's kind of what we discussed last time, just in case any police were called or whatever for question. But just to give you a heads up, like, there'd be enough notice, ahead of time. And I don't think, I think the proper way to handle this would be to not put all our line in the water, at once. Just let's keep it to our units before we start.
Sure.
Letting other units use the property, right? I guess that would probably be, let's do a test run, right? Let's see how it goes.
Sure. I guess I'm curious if we want to lay out a procedure for groups that are not enumerated in this MOU using it for overnight camping, or if we'd want to address that in a future amendment.
I would think that this MOU is between the city and these troops about how they're going to use it. And if someone else wants to use it, they need to come to you and they would sign an MOU.
Okay, sounds like a plan.
Does that make
That
sense?
sounds correct to me.
Yeah.
That's good.
Because otherwise we're roping you guys into managing who else is using it, and that doesn't seem like it makes sense.
And I think, as I mentioned, there's a similar type of property that it's still deeded to a scout troop in Williamsburg, Goshen line. And similar thing, like there is a central contact to where they get permission before going on the property.
Other than procedure for overnight use, hunting usage, responsibility for trash, what other things, interactions with the general public, do we want to put any, I mean, I think I'm sort of maybe reticent to say something about parking, just knowing like that the scouts will park as other users currently park on site.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know that needs to be in there. Are the scouts going to engage in hunting at all?
No.
I don't think so. That's where I was asking procedurally, like, where do we change the rules for the parcel in general to say that we're going to allow overnight use with an MOU and that we're only allowing bow hunting? I think that's not what this document should be about.
Yeah, that's a great
Get a
point.
kiosk built.
That's our kiosk. Yeah, I think our kiosk, that's posting the site. So that's us posting it with signs around
But
the
there's
site.
nothing legal about site uses. There's not like,
The commission just has its own discretion about allowing different usages, just like you could allow, like currently this site is also open to mountain bikes because we didn't say it's not open to mountain
yeah.
bikes.
So we just need to get signage up, make our little tags that say what's allowed and what's not.
Would the scouts be intending to do shooting style target sports there, archery or?
According to Scouting America rules, we are not allowed to participate in any range activities outside of scouting properties. And even at that, we have to have a certified range instructor on site. So the answer to that is simply no. We'll never, ever do any shooting, archery of any sort outside of a scout property.
Okay. So maybe what should be in here is just a note that the property will be posted as open to bow hunting and the troops should be aware of that.
For safety purposes.
Yep.
A question for discussion and not to push one answer or another. Does this document need to reference the allowability of fire?
Like the existing fire usage.
Like campfires and.
Yeah, I'm thinking campfires and stuff. I mean, does that need to be brought up here?
Or I was just wondering, sort of more like use at your own risk type situations, whether it's fire or hunting or any safety issue kind of like.
Yeah.
I do think potentially the access and overnight use clause should have a thing in there about assuming that we're good with allowing campfires. I'm fine with allowing campfires.
Except one fire ban.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that belongs in there.
Okay.
And I'm assuming there probably are not any existing fire rings or anything like that. So
We
that
have
would
not
be,
located any yet. I can't imagine over this amount of time that anything that is there would be recognizable. So we did propose creating a space throughout this project for fire rings.
yeah.
Yeah, so this will all get cleaned up, obviously.
You know, and I would assume just like any state park that you go to where you have a fire, you need to have your water buckets, you know, available. So if you're not bringing in water, then you're not having a fire.
Yeah. So unless there are other major topics, I think we can probably handle the rest of this outside of the meeting.
Yep, I think that's true. So my next action items are to finish this MOU and I'll send it over to you. And so Matt, you're our contact, is that with this? Okay, is Bill still looped in or
Yeah, both of
Okay.
us.
Okay. So I'll finish the MOU and send it to Matt and Bill. And then I'll get us some bow hunting only signs. The scouts will work on a kiosk so we can get this site properly labeled. We can think about another Conservation Commission sign. And we will work on next steps around removing the existing stamps.
Sounds good.
On the tree stand stuff, I'll contact an EPO in the morning. EPOs will handle that. Should be able to handle like taking that stuff down.
That's great. Okay. That's it.
Anything to, hunters are responsible. Not all of us, but unfortunately,
Okay.
so yeah, I'll talk, I'll talk to Teresa tomorrow and see what they'll do.
Okay, great. And they can remove those because they're up out of season. Okay. All right, great. That's awesome. That's not on our plate. Yes.
Great.
So we specify deer hunting
Oh, yeah.
or just bow hunting?
I think it's just bow hunting.
Because then they'll have turkeys in May. So there's different seasons. People said there's bow hunting.
Bow hunt turkeys.
You can go hunt turkeys. I don't know the rules.
Yeah, I haven't seen turkeys in our neighborhood in quite a long time, but yeah,
I see them all.
you can hunt them, but not many people hunt them when it's hard.
It's too hard.
I think for the time being, we can probably just say bow hunting, and then, if we realize that a problem is arising, we can address
You
it.
guys will just keep us in the loop, right? I mean, you'll see overnight usage and the neighbors can continue to keep us in the loop. Yeah, we appreciate having made contact with so many neighbors through this. So we appreciate you all weighing in.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, great.
Thank you all for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks to the scouts who offered your comments as well.
And your building skill.
So.
Jump back.
And Arlowick Associates, 469 and 73 Loudville Road, Mass DEP file number 1510309.
I know we have Ryan here for that. Okay, so for the COC, we have all of the necessary pieces. So I think from where I sit, the commission is good to issue this COC tonight. We received the homeowners, the updated condominium rules and regulations of the homeowners association. This is the document right here. It includes all of our in perpetuity conditions right here at the end as exactly written in our order. We have our updated O&M plan with the logs signed by the current president of the HOA. We have our letter stating that runoff has not increased, that just the language, just that the storms, that the site functions for each storm. Yeah, that based on, here it is. There is no post-development increase in runoff from the 10-year, the 100-year, et cetera. We have that letter that states that as well.
Okay.
We have an as-built that's stamped by an engineer. So we have all of the pieces.
Yep.
There remains the question, and I know we have Ryan here if we want to ask him any questions, but there remains the conversation about the area of encroachment beyond the limit of work in an area that's non-jurisdictional to the commission. So again, they're out of compliance with their special permit here from the planning board. The planning board doesn't really do enforcement. Their enforcement is entirely done by the building inspector. This is a weird one for the building inspector because it's really not a building inspector situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Normally that's like something in the building is unsafe. And so we're in a bizarre situation where what we have sort of obviously is a conservation issue. However, we're in an area non-jurisdictional because we've got encroachment towards an isolated vegetated wetland.
Yep.
The planning board doesn't do their own enforcement. The building inspector is not particularly interested in pursuing enforcement here, though he could. He's empowered to because they're in violation of their special permit. So this is our area. I think this picture kind of shows it somewhat well. We have our see if I can get you a different one. Yeah, so this is our post in the middle of the field. It's 20 feet from where the lawn expanded. I would say based on soil plugs into the isolated vegetated wetland, like I'm pulling hydric soil right here. Not shockingly, you can see jewelweed creeping over the silt fence line here. So we're in wetland. Yep. So my proposal and the stretch of the like semicircle, it's not really a semicircle, it's like a this kind of situation, right? So getting an estimate of square footage was hard, but something around the land of like 1,400 square footage, but a weird shape. Yep. Right. So the proposal, the letter that I drafted is to request that they revegetate that area. So I wanted to talk about that with you. Before we take a closer look at the language of the letter, I want to just draw our attention to the other one that is that they've expanded past. Because I think we have an opportunity to do a little bit of we'll move this post here. I don't have a good image of it. It's essentially,
the post in the middle of the lawn.
It's a post in the middle of the lawn, exactly. So we've got a corner of pine trees. We've got a post in the middle of them. There's no resource areas. We're headed towards other buildings. It's really a non-consequential expansion from a conservation perspective. So in order in order for the conservation monuments to continue meaning something, I think the Conservation Commission should authorize ourselves to move that post to where the true limit of work is now.
Basically behind those pine trees.
Yeah.
So behind the landscaping.
Yeah.
But only for that one, not for the first one.
Exactly. So the way I say that, and we can change the wording if we want to. So the Conservation Commission, dear owners, so the Condominium Association, in the process of reviewing the post-construction Conservation Commission conditions for the development of several crossings, has become aware of 2 locations of expansion beyond the permitted limit of work. So we required these permanent pink capped rebar markers to demarcate the limit of work / disturbance. And it was included as a condition in the Conservation Commission order conditions, the planning board special permit in 2 locations behind unit 6 and 7 and to the side of unit 4. The lawn is clearly expanded beyond the pink rebar permanent marker. Beyond 6 and 7, the disturbance lawn has expanded up to the edge of an isolated vegetated wetland, compromising its ability to perform vital wetland functions such as wildlife habitat, water quality improvement, and flood storage. The Conservation Commission strongly urges, we can think about the language here, the owners to remove the lawn and revegetate the about 1,400 square foot area with a native species seed mix. And again, you can think about a number here, some number of tree shrub plantings. We can talk about if we want to specify species. The commission acknowledges that both expansions beyond the limit of work are out of compliance with the owner's special permit. Regarding the lawn expansion to the side of unit 4, the Conservation Commission recognizes limited ecosystem impact to this lawn expansion. The commission is willing to move the permanent marker to the privacy screen vegetation back 16 feet from its current location on the side of unit 4. This restoration area and location change to the unit 4 permanent marker must be included in a revised as-built, which will be recorded with the COC, which is a great reason that we're doing this now, because they haven't recorded the as-built yet with the CFC.
So they can change their as-built and then have all this tied up.
Yes.
Yeah. Any questions?
No, I'm good with that.
That seems very straightforward.
Okay. Do we want to change? Do we like the language of urges here? Okay.
Yeah.
Do we want to tell them anything more about how we want them to revegetate it?
I'm fine with that. And if they ask for advice, we can give them some suggestions, but if
they do nothing, it'll just turn into what it's supposed to be, right?
Or it'll fill with invasives.
But that's going to happen anyway. So that's just.
I mean, that isolated vegetated wetland is not full of invasives.
Right.
It's got jewelweed and skunk cabbage and some nice, buttressed roots trees growing.
Yeah, I think we can leave it. I'm comfortable leaving it pretty big.
Okay. So, say again?
16 feet from it is spelled wrong.
Thank you. And I'll just show you this attached conservation monument because we'll include this with the letter. It just shows it really clearly. These are the little X's are where the posts were supposed to be. So just really clearly how that was supposed to be the limit of work, including, so this is the corner one, I think. And this just got pushed out.
Yep.
And then here we just got nice and close.
Yeah.
It's this one. It's that one.
I think that makes sense.
Okay, so Ryan, do you want to come off mute for us?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Ryan Nelson from Arlevec Associates.
So, recognizing that this is really now the homeowner's move, how do you want to handle updating the as-built with the locations of the conservation markers once the commission has an opportunity to remove it, to move the one to the side of 4, and including some kind of hatched restoration area, something on the as-built that shows that shows the reality of where the limit of work was actually established. Because I believe on your current as-built, it doesn't show that the marker is not in the actual location.
So our as-built shows what exists, right? So by nature of the as-built, we didn't show what the permitted limit of work line was. We can add that. The marker locations that you see on the plan are where they were staked out, what you see in the field. I am hesitant to add any restoration area to an as-built plan because obviously that hasn't been done yet. And
the conservation markers are not in the location that they actually are on the as-built. So
not, I thought they were. I thought that's why they were
confused
out
on that
on.
statement. We staked them out. It's not like the contractor put them where they wanted.
Okay, right. But sorry, let me rephrase that. The limit of work is not accurately shown on the as-built.
Correct.
Then it's not currently an accurate as-built.
We didn't show the tree line on the as-built. I think that's where the confusion is.
What is this black line here that my cursor is moving over?
That's the approved limit of work.
So we need to see the actual limit of work on the as-built.
Okay.
That's how it was built.
So I do think if you show the actual limit of work, which we can kind of see over here by unit 4, where the arborvitae are compared to where the permitted limit of work is, that shows our 13. Oh, did it move? Yeah, that shows our 13 feet down here by the side of unit 4. This distance right here from the post to the arborvitae, or they're not actually, they're pines, aren't they, Ryan?
Arborvitaes, yep. Actually, no, those are white pines, sorry, along that sideline.
So this one's shown clearer, but I do think this image of the as-built, the image of the as-built in response to the vegetated wetland is not showing the reality of the picture here. So it's not showing the encroachment.
Okay, we can update it to show that. That's no problem.
Okay. So what do we think about the restoration area?
So I think we want to show what the permitted line was so that that's recorded on the COC, and then also what actually happened. And then the space in between them. We don't have to call it the restoration area, but that will be documented so that it can be referenced in minutes and such, and it'll be clear where both things happened. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Did you get that, Ryan? So we don't want to take off the permitted limit of work, but we need to add the actual limit of work so that you can see the difference.
Yep, understood.
Okay, so knowing that we need a change to the as-built, do we want to wait to issue the COC until we have the new as-built in hand?
I think so. Yeah.
Everything else, I think, though, we have. So that's our remaining piece.
That's good then.
We could vote to give you, can we vote to give you authority to issue once we have that?
Oh, hold on. The change in monuments that we were just talking about, don't we want to hear back from homeowners about what their intention is before we?
Well, there's not much we can do about it. It's great.
We can bring it back to the building inspector.
So I mean, if we're gonna send them a letter and we're talking about moving two monuments.
We're leaving one monument.
Moving one, right? Then we should probably show the moved monument on whatever gets
Yes.
recorded, accompanies the COC, right? So
Right.
are we saying we would issue the COC now and then try to get that documentation, or we're saying we're waiting, and that could take forever to get that sorted out, is my opinion. I would just rather just be done with this, personally, but
Well, I don't know that we need a response from them about moving the one that we want to just move and relocate.
I think regardless of whether or not they do the restoration area, which is the right thing to do, we should just move the other one because it's gonna delegitimize the other monuments if we move it.
Yeah.
what do you mean, like physically move it on the
Yes, we
ground?
should go out and move it and then have it moved on the as-built so that it's recorded where it actually lines up.
We gotta have them do that.
Because
It's not our property.
it's on, we required the monument. If we change the location.
We could tell them to change the location. We can't physically change it.
Ryan, can your team change the location of the monument behind to the side of Unit 4?
Yes, we could.
Can we authorize Ryan to go ahead and move forward with that?
Yep.
And document it.
Yeah.
And then document the new location on the as-built. So what we're thinking with that, Ryan, just to make sure you're on the same page, is you're going to take the monument to the side of Unit 4 that's currently in the existing lawn, and you're going to place it like at the tree line of the white pine.
Got it. Understood. Yep.
And then move that location of the monument on the as-built so that it's recorded where you put it and GPS it.
Got it. Okay.
And then I think we could close out their whole process. And it's just a matter of hoping that
They do the right thing.
they do the right thing with the restoring, but everything gets recorded.
As current conditions.
Yeah.
Yep.
With both what was permitted and current conditions with
Yep.
regards to behind Unit 6 and 7.
Yeah.
So are we saying we could approve the certificate of compliance contingent upon all that happening?
I think Ryan, can we have the updated as-built with the new location of the one to the side of 4, the monument to the side of 4? Could we have that by the June 8th meeting and issue the COC at the June 8th meeting? I mean, obviously.
Yeah.
we could.
Doable. Yep.
Let's do that then. That's cleaner.
Yep. Because then we can just have the as-built in hand. It can be in our files.
Yep.
It's ready to go.
Great. Sounds good.
Super.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, thanks for your patience, Ryan.
Yeah. No problem. Thanks. Have a good night.
Okay. So we feel good about this letter, though?
Yes.
All right. And I'll sign it to the Conservation
So
Commission.
do we need to continue or we?
Do we need?
We do.
So motion to continue to June 8th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excellent. I'll move.
I have to actually leave, but I approve both sets of minutes.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good night.
Noting the time.
Yep.
Are there critical items that we need to prioritize?
There are not a lot of compliance updates, so we're going to jump through this real quick.
And was there anything else on open space or?
Yeah, I can, quickly, I included this mostly in the ongoing project updates but B parcel continues to move forward. I was out there with Walker and Matt and Steve Liberty, our habitat assessor.
Great, so everybody was out together.
We're all out together, yep. Things keep moving along. I mean, I don't have any I don't have any like final products for you yet, so we'll see. I'll also just note on the bridges side of the parcel, Sam Veggieberg has passed it off to Al Donahue to be like lead on this project. So
Okay.
Al's gonna be the lead. Great.
Did you see any actual snakes?
We did not see any snakes on the parcel. There were, however, some locations that Steve Liberty highlighted and like the site visit was illustrative of specific habitat conditions that would be better. So that's
helpful.
yeah, it's good.
Okay, good.
And Liberty just also had some ideas about what natural heritage likes to see generally with mitigation, which we just didn't really have any idea. He was like 3-to-1, so a multiplier of 3 for closed trails to new trail is the kind of thing that they typically like to see. They think in terms of area, not in terms of like linear feet. So it's not a great 1-to-1, but
yeah, okay.
We continue to put that forward. I also included a note from a user who emailed me just to say that there's quads out on the trails. So I'll just state for the record that quads and like dirt bikes are not allowed on this parcel.
Yep. Okay. Thank you for keeping that moving.
Yep.
All right, compliance updates.
I do I have anything? Oh, Tasty Top. If the commission recalls, we discussed last time, Brian had asked to reduce inspection frequency. They have a large stretch of open area, exposed soil. So I told him no.
Okay.
Sounds good. Good call.
So that's basically it for compliance updates. I have a couple general business stuff for y'all.
Okay.
Minutes can go first though.
Yep, meeting minutes. So we had 4:13 and 4:27. Any additional comments on those before we motion to accept?
No, they looked good.
Can we have a motion?
Motion to accept minutes for those 2 days.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Thank you. Wetlands ordinance, city council, Wednesday. And we're expecting that to be the vote, correct?
I hope so.
That's our understanding.
That's our understanding. Yeah, I have no reason to think otherwise, but city council has been known to just get cold feet and send things back to committee.
Okay.
They do that all the time.
Okay.
So don't be crushed if they do that.
Yep. Okay.
Sometimes like one member of the public says something a little bit and then they're like, it better go back to committee.
Yeah.
So.
And that meeting starts at 6?
It starts at 6.
Do we know where we are on the agenda?
We are like the 4th or 5th item. There are a couple ordinances before us.
Okay.
There's a zoning ordinance before us. You'd probably be safe if you got there by 6:45.
Oh, you think it'll be that far in?
I honestly don't know. They take things out of order sometimes. It's hard to know.
Okay.
It's hard
All
to know. I can
Sounds
pull
good.
the agenda really fast if you guys just want to see it. Okay.
So it would be excellent if as many commissioners can be there as possible. There is no
But not
quorum
committee, no
situation.
quorum? Okay.
No, because it's city council.
Okay.
It's already a public meeting.
Okay. Okay.
I will be there.
Thanks.
Great.
And Ava, you're presenting.
The plan is for me to do my presentation. Yeah. Unless city council is just like gunning to vote on it.
Let's go home.
Okay.
Yeah, Allison was essentially like, be ready to do your presentation, but they might, like Councilor Jamrod McQuaid, who's chair of ordinance, might just introduce it and then just move to a vote.
Okay.
So,
Sounds good.
but councilors, or commissioners could be ready to give a public comment about it. There'll definitely be opportunity for that. And I just think the more positive things that the councilors hear, the better.
Great. Sounds good. All right. What's next? Mass ready?
Mass ready. Yep. Mass ready continues. Okay. So speaking of, can
you summarize this? I read it quickly and I didn't really understand it.
Yeah, totally. I'd be happy to. And I did draft us a letter. So, okay. So just where we're at in the process, the Senate passed forward mass ready. There were so many amendments, hundreds of amendments that got added onto it in the last minute. They voted on the amendments in giant buckets, 50 at a time. And one of the ones that went through in one of the buckets on the Senate's version of the bill was a
that streamlining one?
Yes, language about municipalities that have adopted local wetlands ordinances will have preference modifiers around applying for some of the conservation money that's in, as in making them less preferred if you have additional protections. The governor bitch. So just big picture, right? Like if we're thinking about the governor priority housing, energy production, right? Like just thinking, I'm speaking in generalities here, but those are some things. So that's the kind of thought process that this is coming from. So everyone in the wetlands world, in the Conservation Commission world is up in arms about this. And so this is the language that we're sending to House Ways and Means, who has it right now, before the House puts together its version of it. Then it'll go to reconciliation. So the House will vote with its own buckets and buckets and buckets of amendments. And then it will go
to clean it up.
They'll go to reconciliation.
Okay.
So we're really early. But yeah. So this,
yes, I support the letter.
Yeah.
That helped.
And I think it's
Thank you
good
for
to weigh
clarifying.
in early
Yeah.
in the process.
yeah. And just like this language, right? These provisions are antithetical to the resilience goals of Mass Ready.
Right.
It's like undermining its own bill.
Yeah.
Right.
For that amendment.
I don't have the name of that senator.
Yes. Anybody have issues supporting?
No, go ahead.
All right, so I'm gonna send this to Rep. Gomez. Yes.
Right.
Great. All right, just some fun stuff to close it out. City Nature Challenge, you all saw in the ongoing, that there was some never before recorded species that were found during the global BioBlitz, including a leech in downtown.
Pictures to show.
In downtown San Francisco, they found the Golden Gate leech.
Okay. Is that on the bridge?
No.
Okay.
Is it a newly identified species that they found on that day?
Yeah, I think it was like maybe known but not ever recorded.
Okay.
Some other species, the first iNaturalist record of the death camas mining bee. In Nambia, a tiny plant, there's only been 13 records of it ever. And a super critically endangered in Austria spider species. So it's cool. It's cool that we were part of this like global BioBlitz effort. If this was the largest city nature challenge to date. And here in Western Mass, we made 7,700 observations, identifying 1,154 species with almost 500 people. And Easthampton had about 45 to 50 observers. So
anything particularly exciting in Easthampton?
Not that I saw.
Okay.
I didn't come through it though.
Yeah. Sounds good.
No.
We didn't make the global roundup though.
Yeah, not surprising, I suppose.
Awesome. All right. I got that vernal pool certified over at White Brook Conservation Area. If you all recall, that came up in our ANRAD of Crown Meadow Estates, that vernal pool in the riverfront. It was riverfront. It was now intermittent stream, that whole conversation. This is over a year ago at this point. But I had submitted that quite some time ago, and it was officially certified. So that's great. Another certified vernal pool here in Easthampton. And fun updates, this could have gone under B parcel, but let's take a look. So this parcel up here that we have thought is identified on the assessor map as owned by the log cabin is actually owned by the city of Holyoke as part of this parcel.
Fantastic.
Fabulous news.
Yeah.
And that land, which is a large chunk that's mostly in Holyoke, do you know about this from your other work? Is currently in, I'd say, mid to late stages of discussion of a sale to the Department of Fish and Game to be part of their larger wildlife management area.
Okay.
And would include our Easthampton portion. We'll say I did call the Department of Fish and Game and put in a plug for us to have ownership of our land, and they said no.
Okay. But would it allow us to connect the trail through there potentially?
I think so. They don't maintain trails right? Like Fish and Game, their whole thing with wildlife management areas is they're like, we don't do trails.
Right.
But it wouldn't be private property that the trail was going through. They don't really take people off of their trails either.
Okay.
So that's great. There are some other things related to, if we recall, this parcel that we lost out on, the former Robondo parcel, Damaris. There's conversations about that as it relates to Department of Fish and Game, not things I can share in a public
So
meeting.
does that make that parcel landlocked that they bought?
They still have frontage
Still have frontage
from that.
Okay, oh, from that corner, okay.
Yeah, that little corner right there.
Alright, I see, yeah.
But yeah, so there's gonna be an A&R that will go through our planning board as this sale progresses, because establishing that property line as relates to the town boundary. So as that comes in front of the planning board, I think it'd be great if we sent a letter of support when that happens. And then as I've learned from the Holyoke conservation agent, this parcel back here has been really controversial over the last 20 years. And the city has routinely tried, it's not Article 97 land. The city has routinely tried to put some development there. There's a lot of wetlands, the rare species concerns, it's right at that crest, are just like off the wall.
Yeah.
Every development possibility has been thwarted, but it's been a really controversial and active project. So I do think if it makes it in front of their city council for a sale to Department of Fish and Game, it would be a good time for us to show some neighborly town conservation support.
Okay.
It's not a done deal that this parcel is conserved, even though like in my mind, I'm like, of course it is, but it's not.
So, sorry, what is the actual parcel?
I'll pull it up on the Holyoke.
There's that 3 continues across the line. It's all one thing and goes all the way up to 141.
Exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Some surveyor probably had the town line wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Screwed it up.
Maps or something.
A long time ago. I mean, I keep, people love to be like, towns can't own land in other towns. And then it's like, except in this case, in this case, in this case, in this case, in this case. So this is the land right here.
So many cases.
So many cases. Yeah. So this is the land right here.
Okay. So we just have that little wedge.
And it's just like right up there.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
So
the whole thing would be protected through DCR then?
Through DFG, Department of Fish and Game.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Good update.
And that's all I have for you.
All right. Excellent. Anybody else?
Nothing.
All good.
And we have a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn this meeting. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. It is 8:28. We are concluding this evening's meeting of the Easthampton Conservation Commission, and our next meeting will be June 8th at 6 p.m. Thank you, everybody.
And our local cable subscribers.